Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Shri Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So today we are reading and summarizing chapter 23. Information. Yesterday, you heard all about the descendants of Pandu and with it that made up most of the Pandava family. So Bhishma and Vyasadeva and all that. So today, and I think when I gave a class in the beginning of the canto, I asked you to pay attention to these long lists. And when you look in the back of the 9th canto, very nicely done, they've made these genealogical tables, that correspond to many of these chapters. So you can see they're quite in depth, and it actually helps a lot, because as you're running through these verses, sometimes you just get lost if we're not paying attention very well. You think, well, wait a minute, he's not the descendant of this person. No, because he's jumping. Sukadeva Goswami is starting with, let's say, okay, we have Yayati had 5 sons, so now I'm going to tell you the sons of Puru, and then there's a whole line, and then all of a sudden he'll jump to the sons of. Today we're going to hear of the sons of Yadu. So there was Turvasa, Dhruyu, Anu, and Puru, I think you heard yesterday about that. And there's the whole, of Kuru, and Sadhuna, Janu, and Nishada, and from there, Patipa. And then, you can just imagine, Parikshit Maharaj is sitting there when he hears somebody that Patipa. Oh, I know who that is. Who's Patipa? He is the great-grandfather of Bhishma Dev. And so you can just imagine, Parikshit Maharaj is hearing these lists and lists and lists of all these, but then all of a sudden, Patipa, and then his sons were Devaba and Shantanu. I know Shantanu. Balika was Shantanu's brother, and from him came these great Kurukshetra. And of course, Parikshit Maharaj didn't take part in the battle of Kurukshetra, but those who may have grown up hearing Mahabharata, you start knowing these names. The sons of Balika, Somadat, Bodhisravas, they play great roles in this battle of Kurukshetra. Bhishma, Chitrangada, Vitradavirya, Vyasadeva, and Vyasadeva, Dhritarashtra, Vidura, and Pandu. Dhritarashtra, 100 sons and a daughter. Pandu, and 5 Pandavas that we hear about and we glorify. then Arjuna and Abhimanyu to Parikshit Maharaj. So you can just imagine him sitting here hearing, and we may wonder why all these lists, why all these. It seems quite detailed, and what is we want to hear transcendental subject matters. That's the whole purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam. But he's also imparting a lesson to Parikshit Maharaj, that as we are approaching the single-pointed hearing about Krishna, I want you to make sure you are not attached to anything else. So, especially those realms of the material world. And so, as we hear these lists, we start to experience a little bit, perhaps. And if you go, I know you don't read all the verses in these chapters in this study, in the way we're studying the curriculum here, but on your own, you should be reading, or when you do get to the 9th canto to read, don't just breeze through these, because it's there to impart a lesson, and the lesson is the temporary nature of the material world. Because, I don't know, every once in a while we'll hear, oh, there is this one Yayati, and then we'll hear a story. Sukadeva Goswami will tell a story of Yayati, and then this son, and that son, and that son, and that son, and Rantideva. Oh, and then we'll hear a little story about Rantideva, and then this son, and that son, and this son, and this daughter, and this group, and this, and it just goes on, and you just start thinking, and it's there to impress upon us, wow. There's all these generations after generations after generations after generations, and that, where are they? They're all gone. And Yudhishthira in the Mahabharata is famously answered Yamaraj, said the most wonderful thing is that we see this happening again and again and again, every day, catastrophe after catastrophe, after natural death, after unnatural death, after this type of death or that type of death. We see it, and we experience it. Many times we're experiencing it, but then we think, we go out the door, I'm not going to die. I have so many plans. I have so many things I'm going to do, and we're very little are we thinking that are we going to die? And of course, we don't want to be moroseness personified. That we're going to die. We're going to die, Prabhu. We're going to die. We don't do that, but it is there to give us an understanding. There's something higher. There's something higher, there's something eternal, and that we are naturally eternal. Because why would we be afraid of death? If death is just another chemical reaction, then why would we be afraid of it? We're afraid of it because we are eternal, and we have the nature to enjoy eternally. But when we're entrapped in something, just like if our nature is to be free, and then if all of a sudden you're bound up, that's an unnatural situation, and you just want to get free. But then after a while, caged animals, they become used to it, and then you can't just let a caged animal go free, because then they don't know how to survive anymore. So we are encaged, you could say, in some we are encaged in this material body. And even though we may have some theoretical understanding that I'm eternal and I enjoy eternally, we've somehow or other, Prabhupada would sometimes use that term, somehow or other, we have become attached to this body. And we can think nothing, very little do we think beyond the body. What is my what am I going to eat today? Where am I going to sleep? Who am I going to see? All these things, they just build up and more day after day after day after day. Then we start identifying, well, actually, I'm my body. I am me. And I'm not going to die, but we have that inside, we still have that eternal nature. And so when we're starting to get old, the eternal nature is starting to question, boy, this is horrible getting old. I can't do what I used to do, like run and jump and lift things, shoulders out, my knees are bad, my back is bad. But we have that eternal spark still with it. That is our nature. And so Sukadeva Goswami, so expert in his presentation that he wants to give Pariksha, because now Pariksha, maybe this is day 5 or probably 5 or 6, 5.5. It's just about to enter the 10th canto. It's getting late for his time ticker, you could say, because he had the information that he would die in 7 days. So after going through 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam, you can imagine it must be day 5 or 6. And so don't think this body, which is about to be burnt up by a snake bird or whatever, as he says, or whatever conjuring thing may come upon me, don't think that that's the end of you. There's something eternal, and that relationship and that eternality portion of you has an eternal relationship with Krishna. And so he very expertly just puts in a little. He's starting to get him excited first by telling about his family members. So he's very excited. But then today's verse, I guess we could it's a double verse, and you can't break it up because so we'll say it all. We'll do them both. Can you get them both on it? You can't get them both on there, even seeable. Oh, you can do that?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So this, Krishna appeared once in Srimad Bhagavatam. Who knows where Krishna appeared before this? Yes? Go ahead. How did he appear?
He appeared as a mediator between Arjuna and Bhima.
Yeah. That was our first introduction to Krishna. And we could talk about an hour about that and the import behind that. But then whole Srimad Bhagavatam happened. There's a little bit of remembrance of Krishna by Uddhava in the 3rd canto. But other than that, very little. I mean, sometimes Prabhupada would address either Bhagavan or Hari or something, he would use the word Krishna. But in terms of talking directly about Krishna, who had appeared in the Yadu dynasty, there's nothing. All these other pastimes, so 9 cantos worth of it. Now he's going to start inserting Krishna. Yatra vatirna bhagavan Paramatma narakriti Yadho sahasra jidkroshta Nalo ripuriti shuta Chatvara sunavastatra Shatajit Prathamatmaja Mahadhayo Renuhayo Hayhayaschiti Tat Shuta. You play ping pong. Somebody does the first and then somebody plays the second. Yatra Bhagavan Paramatmanarakriti Yado Sahasrajit Kroshta Nalori Puriti Shuta
Chatvara Sunavastatra
Chatrava Sunavastatra
Satajit Prathamatmaja
Shatajit Patamatmaja
Yoren Tatsutaha
Hai Stiti Tatsuta. Anyone else? We need to. Yachavitino Bhagavan Paramatmanarakriti Yadosahasriti Kroshta Nalori Puriti Shuta Chatra Srinivastatra Sajjati Padmatmata Mahamayinayo Hai Ascheti Tatsutaha. We'll just go to the translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna. So even here, Prabhupada is translating Bhagavan. So Bhagavan, he gives a big, long explanation in Bhagavad Gita. Why are we saying Krishna? Sri Bhagavan Avacha. And again, he would say Bhagavan. Bhagavan is the Supreme Personality of God, and that is only Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, the Super Soul in the hearts of all living entities, descended in his original form as a human being in the dynasty or family of Yadu. Yadu had 4 sons named Sahasrajit, Kroshta, Nala, and Ripu. Of these 4, the eldest, Sahasrajit, had a son named Satyajit, who had 3 sons named Mahahaya, Renuhaya, and Haihaya. So when they called them for supper, they would just say, Haya. Oh my goodness. That's my Sri Chaitanya Manobistam Stavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Pancha Kalpa Churubhya Styagipa Sindhu Yevacha Padidanam Bhavanibhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So we'll read the purport in a minute. But I wanted to say this is now, see, this verse is also kind of mysterious, that he says Bhagavan Yatarvino Avatarya is descending, the avatar of Bhagavan. He is in this dynasty, in which dynasty? Yatra. And then he speaks about Yadu, of the Yadu dynasty. So the Supreme Personality of God, Bhagavan, appeared in this dynasty of Yadu. And then immediately he starts talking about the dynasty of Yadu. And again, for the rest of this chapter, we don't hear about Krishna again. And most of the next chapter, and I don't want to, next chapter is also very mysterious. But most of the next chapter, we also don't hear about Krishna until just the very, very end. And then Krishna is described in like 1 or 2 verses, his whole life. So it's mysterious how Sukadev and how acharyas teach about Krishna. And so we should learn about this. We should take note of how is it that they're presenting Krishna. And what should we learn? What should we gain when we want to share Krishna with others? And so Prabhupada, you could say, it's an unexpected purport of, you would think, oh, here's Prabhupada's chance. He's going, oh, Krishna's so wonderful, and Krishna does this, he's so cute, and he does this and does this. but he comes at a very responsible acharya position. So let's read this purport. As confirmed in Srimad Bhagavatam 1-11, Vadanti tatvavidas tatvam yadjnanam advayam brahmeti paramameti bhagavaniti sabjate. Learned transcendentalists who know the absolute truth call this non-dual substance Brahman, Paramatma, or Bhagavan. So he's quoting this verse because today's verse spoke of Bhagavan. So now he's proving, he's approaching it from that angle. What is Bhagavan in terms of absoluteness? And is that the only absolute feature of the Lord? And so this is a very important sentence. The majority of transcendentalists understand only the impersonal Brahman or localized Paramatma. For, or because, the personality of Godhead is very difficult to understand. So this, if we think about when we ask people, what is your conception of God? And maybe we also still hold conceptions of God. It's not that we're all fully understanding in any realm, but we have our own concept. We have our theoretical understanding, or we can repeat what we think we understand about God, or we actually truly have something within us that, well, this is all I've realized. But generally, a lot of understanding of the transcendentalists, and he's speaking here of the Tattvavidas, of those who are transcendental, those those who are endeavoring to understand the absolute truth. They understand that absolute truth in three different features. This Brahman, this all-pervasiveness. And so that is certainly there, inherent in many, many thoughts throughout the world that we may come in contact. Oh yes, God is in nature. God is everywhere. God is light. He is this. He is goodness. He is so many things. So can you say, well, where is he? Oh, he's everywhere. He's all pervading. So there's another aspect of the Paramatma, he's all pervading everywhere. So this is generally, and he says, the majority of those who understand God or have some conception of God, even, you could say, even those who are Vedantists, those who are following the Vedas, those following even a monotheistic way of understanding religion, of that their God is a person, he's a father. Okay, where does he live? He's a father, that means he's a person. Where does he live? What does he look like? What does he do? Oh no, we don't go into that. So the majority, and that's okay. They're appreciating God, and sometimes even you could say those without any, you could say, trained understanding in theology, they just, when the lightning, they attribute that to God, or when the sun rises, oh, look how wonderful God is providing for us in all these ways. And so there's appreciations of God in so many different ways. And so Prabhupada is starting here. Here's the first introduction to Krishna. Krishna appeared in the Yadav dynasty. All right, let me talk about how we understand God and how to understand Krishna. Because, and he said, and here's because he's very careful in his presentation, and Sukadeva Goswami is very careful in his presentation, because he is very difficult to understand. So why? Any thoughts of why do you think, and we may have some limited beginner's understanding of Krishna and maybe some of his pastimes. So why do we think that Krishna is very difficult to understand? Yes, what is your name?
Robert.
Robert, thank you.
If Krishna was a person who I imagine, I'm told, actually lived at a period of time and no longer is on earth in a physical form, I can't directly ask the form of Krishna that I'm told about. So if I have a mentor here, I can talk to them and ask them questions, but I don't know how to ask Krishna about himself. I don't know how to get to know Krishna himself by asking Krishna. I just don't know how to do that yet.
Right. That's one aspect. Why Krishna? Because we don't have, you could say, the Sakshat Darshan. We're not standing before Krishna and say, Krishna, tell me about yourself. So what is our method? Robert, have you been told what is the method?
My answer is to ask my direct guru.
There you go. We hear from authorities. Good, thank you. Why else is Krishna very difficult to understand?
Is it perhaps because
What is your name?
Gopi Jivana Dasa?
Gopi.
We live in this world where we have quite a relative perception of different things, and everything we think about usually morality that we have here in this film.
Yeah, there's a term, Atmavam Manyate Jagat, that everything that I see, that is reality. Everything I see, and I'm going to impose my understanding of this reality upon everything I see. So if I see Krishna as a baby, I remember when I was a baby, or I remember Krishna, if Krishna has a girlfriend, then I remember when I had a girlfriend, or and so we impose those feelings that we have, Atma, that ourselves, and we say, oh, that's exactly what Krishna is doing. So it's very difficult to understand, and so we have to get it from the right source, as Robert was saying. Yes, Christina.
Another reason is that Krishna doesn't necessarily want people to understand his personal form, because if he gives out that information super freely, then you have like exclusive access, right? Like it's like if you have a celebrity and they might be like, oh yeah, here's my social media page, and like, kind of more general, like here's the email address of my agent, but they're not just going to give out their personal phone number or their personal address, because because they just might not want to, unless they're really good friends with you, or they really like you, or you have some kind of relationship. Yeah.
And what is that protecting? That's an excellent example of, well, I don't just give out, I don't like wear my contact information on my forehead. What does that protect for Krishna?
Protects his heart.
Protects his heart.
Yeah, because if basically he becomes purchased by the love of his devotees, and you can't be a devotee, you can't develop that love unless you know his personal form.
Yeah. Aishvarya Madhurya Karuna, Krishna's greatest opulence, his greatest, you can say, well, God has so many opulence, he has so much wealth and so much, but his greatest opulence is Karuna, Madhurya, that he gives himself, Purata, Aishvarya Madhurya, Purna, he gives himself, Bhakta Vatsalya Vadanya, Vadanyata. Vadanya is like giving. And Bhakta Vatsalya, for those who have this great love for Krishna, he gives himself to them. That's his greatest act of mercy. And so he can't, and we shouldn't misunderstand that Krishna is not capable of giving himself to everyone, but they must be Bhakta Vatsalya. They must have this pure and it's such a beautiful word, Bhakta Vatsala. Vatsa is like your calf. So there's so much love. There's so much love, that unconditional love for Krishna. Just as a cow has unconditional love for its calf, when they're ever separated, they're both mooing. And so he needs, when he gives himself to his devotee, and that's what he feels impelled to do that. And so that devotee must be pure, and not just, oh, I got Krishna's phone number. I know, and we see this even, here I am, look at me. I'm in front of the deities, or I'm doing this, and it's me. It's not a glorification of the Lord. In purity, there may be something. I'm so happy I'm here. I want to show everybody that I'm here. And so that there's something there. It's not, well, I'm in front of, I don't know, Rockefeller Plaza or something in the Christmas tree or something, but there's something. It's not purely mundane, but it's tinged. There's still some, but he's looking for unconditional. And so it's very difficult to understand Krishna sometimes. Why does he make it? Okay, let's hear what Prabhupada Priya has to add.
There's one more reason why he's difficult to understand is I think Kunti Devi says that he comes masked as a human being. So it's like, yeah, so if someone's wearing a mask, sometimes you don't know who they really are behind that mask.
Yeah. Yeah, and so many poets that they say, oh, please raise that curtain. Please dispel that curtain in Ishopanishad. Please, because Vedanta Tadvaditas Tattvam Jnanam. Krishna is. It's not that Krishna is not Brahman. It's not that Krishna is not localized. He is, and he has great source of light. But for the bhakta, for the devotee, they say, oh, please remove that effulgence. Please, that's a disturbance, because I just want to see you. And more in this purport, Prabhupada starts to bring us to that form of Krishna. So he says, it's difficult to understand, very difficult. And so then he quotes Bhagavad Gita, Manushanam sahasreshu kachit yatati siddhaye yatatam api siddhanam kasyam mam veti tattvata. Again, tattvata, out of truth. How do we know Krishna in truth? What is it? Because this is why the Bhagavatam is being spoken, to give us true understanding of God and our relationship. Out of many thousands among men, one may endeavor for perfection. And out of those who have achieved perfection, so this perfection is, these are transcendentalists who understand Brahman. They're perfect, you could say. They're perfect in their understanding of Brahman, but not absolutely perfect. So out of many of those perfect persons, hardly one knows me. So when we use the word me, it is no longer impersonal. It's a very personal word. It's not one who knows it. The Brahman or something. No, one who knows me in truth, tattvata, in truth. The yogis and jnanis, that is, the mystic yogis and the impersonalists, can understand the absolute truth as impersonal or localized. But although such realized souls are above ordinary human beings, they cannot understand how the supreme absolute truth can be a person. So even they're very regimented in their practices. They're abstaining from material sense gratification, and they're deeply absorbed in their thoughts, in their studies. But they still, even then, that's not enough to understand Krishna as a person. Therefore, it is said that out of many siddhas, with the souls who have already realized the absolute truth, one may understand Krishna, who exactly resembles a human being, narakriti. This human form was explained by Krishna himself after he manifested the Virat Rupa. The Virat Rupa is not the original form of the Lord. So the Virat Rupa is Krishna's, again, appearing within all his energies, appearing in the material manifestation, the Virat Rupa. There's an explanation, there's a short explanation in Bhagavad Gita, there's a detailed explanation in the second canto and parts of the third canto. So this Virat is everywhere, is there, but that is not his original form. The Lord's original form is Dvibhuja Shama Sundaram Mulidhara. So the Lord with two hands, Dvibhuja. Sometimes we hear manifestations of Krishna, Sadbhuja or Chaturbhuja, 6-armed or 4 arms, but he's Dvibhuja, 2 arms. And he's Muralidhara, playing a flute. The Lord's forms are proof of his inconceivable qualities. Although the Lord maintains innumerable universes within the period of his breath, he is dressed with a form exactly like that of a human being. That does not mean, however, that he is a human being. That's what makes it so difficult. He looks exactly like us and he plays exactly like, and when he doesn't get what he wants, he cries exactly like us. And we think, oh, I am not so far away from that. I feel just like that. I am, and that's why it's very difficult to understand. This is his original form, but because he looks like a human being, those with a poor fund of knowledge consider him an ordinary man. The Lord says, Avajananti Mamutha, fools deride me when I descend in human form. They do not know my transcendental nature and my supreme dominion over all that be. So again, this is what Sukadeva Goswami has been speaking for about 5.5 days. Krishna's supreme dominion over all that be, through his material, his Virat Rupa, his energies, how he creates a material world, how he engages the living entities within the material world, how we're entrapped in it, and then also, how do we get out? What is the processes for going out? Vitrasura, his surrender, his pure. This is a beginning of bringing us. Where is the key to get out of this entangled material world, which is so entangling? It's a good word. We're entangled. How do we get out of the entanglement? Oh, by practicing in the way of Vitrasura, by the way of Prahlad, by the way of Bali. Giving us more and more instructions of how to attain Krishna, how to surrender to Krishna. By the Lord's Param Bhavam, or transcendental nature, he is the all-pervading Paramatma, living in the core of the hearts of all living entities. Yet he looks like a human being. Mayavad philosophy says the Lord is originally impersonal, but assumes a human form and many other forms when he descends. Actually, however, he is originally like a human being, and the impersonal Brahman consists of the rays of his body. So again, that's the end of the purport, and almost the end of all the purports in this chapter. Very little purports to this extent until quite later in the next chapter, when Krishna is again introduced. So when we look at we study this purport, well, what is Prabhupada trying to say here? We've been sitting in these classes, hearing all these cantos, and we're just about to hear Krishna. What shouldn't it be like? Oh, but don't think anything you hear is going to be of an ordinary person like us. Be very careful. Because it's such a rare thing to get that audience. And Prabhupada loved to give the example of a king. A king, if you've ever, we don't have experience of kings, and don't be fooled that the UK has an idea of what a king is. But the kings, that if you ever gone to the Darbar or the Red Fort in Delhi, or you see that the throne is so high up, and you can, and so what does that mean? Everyone is looking up to the king. So it's an immediate imposition that this person is so much greater than all of us. And even just to get into the throne room is practically impossible. Practically impossible. And so how is the king understood by the regular citizen? Huh? No, how is he yes, he's understood as a representative, but how is his dominion felt by a regular citizen? Okay. The laws, his energies. He has energies. Bhagavan, Paramatma, he has all these energies. He has all these energies that completely sets the laws and the agents of the laws, and everybody knows, I can't steal this. It's not that the king is going to come over and slap my hand, but somebody will. His agents will. And so we're being controlled by his energies. But he is so high, and we never even see him practically. I mean, even in today's political world, I mean, has anybody, raise your hand if you've actually seen a president of the United States in your lifetime, up, face to face? I have not. It looks like nobody here has. So on television? Okay. So a very small percentage of us have actually seen these persons, but we feel their influence all the time. So it's very rare to see this person. And those who do get to go in there, and there's personal attendants, the secretaries and this, they see him in a different way. We see him as the laws and as the Shaktis, but then they see him a little more, okay, he's actually thinking, he's really working, he's doing this and he's doing that. But then even a smaller few, when he leaves the courtroom or leaves his house and he goes into his personal chambers, 2, 3, 4 people see him there. And they really know it. Then he takes off his crown or takes off his, whatever accoutrements makes a king or a queen. They take it all off, and then they're just my husband or my wife or my child, my son, my father. That's all. They're nobody else to them. And so that's very rare to have that vision, to have that. And we can never think, an ordinary citizen think, oh, I've heard that the president or the king or the queen, they were playing with their child, like, wrestling. I want to go and do that. If we think, I'm going to go and wrestle, what would happen? We'd have, people, jumping on us and tearing us off this person. Like, who do you think you are? Pulling us away, and that you don't have the qualification. So what is that qualification? Bhakta Vatsalya Vadanya. They have this love for Krishna that they don't see him as Brahman, Paramatma, and they say, these are disturbances, take it away. I just want to see that form of yours. Krishna, even Arjuna said, take this away. I'm seeing this Virat, it's scary. It's making my body tremble. Take it away. I just want to see your features. 2 arms standing before me. It's my friend, my charioteer. So I brought some things, but I think we can end here with any questions. Main thing is the Srimad Bhagavatam is being presented to us always under this careful tone, you could say. See how Prabhupada was so careful. He could have said, oh, Krishna is this, the instance of the gopis, he does this. No, he's very difficult to understand. And throughout Srimad Bhagavatam's 10th canto, we're okay, that's kind of like, okay, come on into this inner chamber. We're going to hear about Krishna in this way now. No longer are we going to hear about, his all-pervasiveness or this or that. So that's what the drive is. But our teachers, Sukadev Goswami, Srila Prabhupada, they are always bringing us back to make sure we don't just start considering him an ordinary being. So you see this flow of the Bhagavatam's 10th canto chapters. There'll be like it's amazing pastime, and then there's these prayers that kind of speak to us again. He's a supreme person. You hear Brahma's prayer, the supreme personality of God. We again because it's always reminding us, don't think he's an ordinary person like us. Don't do it. And again, Prabhupada will do. So not only does Sukadev Goswami, the Prabhupada also does it with even when it is just the pure, you could say, pastime description, then Prabhupada jumps in and says, don't think that it is like you. Don't think it is like you. So it's a very careful, we have to be very careful in this endeavor, not to think like that. But then try to gain the mood and try to enter. And then we get this taste, because that's where, again, we talked in the beginning, that eternal part of us, which is eternal and stuck in this temporary thing that we've considered ours, our body, our senses, our mind, that gets touched by these descriptions. And then that, makes this determination to continue, to become the Bhakta Vatsala. So we can end here with any quick questions or comments. Yes, what is your name?
Manan.
Manan. Hare Krishna.
So ninth canto has this lot of detailed descriptions of the whole ancestry. He's a son of this, and this is how they married, and so forth. So what role does that play in preparing us for 10th canto?
Did you come in late?
Yes.
Okay. So in the beginning of class, I mentioned that the whole why is Sukadeva Goswami going through this? Why is he? So it's basically to give us an understanding of time and the temporary nature of families of these personalities, and because he's going, as you already kind of understand a little bit, there's this and this and this and this and this, and Parikshit Maharaj, he may remember some of them, he may not, he may remember it from history recitals or things like that, history class, but generally it's just like, where are all these people? They're gone, except a few at the end of the lists that he had some relation to, but even most of them are gone because the Battle of Kurukshetra took them all away. So they're all gone. So it's to give us that understanding of the temporary nature of the material world. And now we are going to discuss something that is beyond that temporary nature. This is all temporary. But here, this is an eternal pastimes of Krishna. They're not of the material world. They don't have that you could say quality of temporariness and suffering, because also within those lists we hear a lot of suffering as well. Yes, Gopi Jivan Das. Hare
Krishna. Prabhu, right at the end of your class, you mentioned that when we make contact with these leelas and we hear and chant them, it can have an effect on the heart. I was just hoping to make a few comments on that. And I just want to remind all of us that that process is also based on like a transcendental greed. I think it's Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in Madhurya Kadambini that uses the word lobha, like the greed. So we have to make an internal shift to really have a desire to associate with these transcendental vibrations as much as we can. And also just do everything we can. The greed should drive us to do everything we can, put all the pieces in the right place so that we can really enter into these pastimes. Like even the Acharyas even say the holy name can reveal a lot about Krishna. So are we making sure that our relationship with the holy name is where it should be? You know, the 10 offenses, don't offend the devotees, try to follow the orders of the spiritual master that you trust, all these different things. I just want to remind all of us that it's like we're on this journey and we just have to stay focused.
Yeah. And Prabhupada never hesitates to remind us to the purports. And of course, this is also a facet of our Srimad Bhagavatam that Srila Prabhupada didn't finish the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, you could say. His verses and purports, we get up to chapter 13 or 14. But the purports after that are, you can hear again and again in Prabhupada's Krishna book, he says this. So Prabhupada gave us Krishna book to make sure that we understand all those pastimes. He did that very early, and he always put them into place. That here's how you understand this Ras Leela, or this activity, or this pastime. So he's always helping us with that. And yeah, we don't. Sometimes we have the tendency we just post things up on like message boards or things that look at this cool thing, but there's maybe very little realization of that thing, and so many different eyes are seeing that thing from different points of view. Some may be very readily, oh, this I fully understand. Somebody else may, oh, this is very confusing to me. And of course, so everything, when it comes to hearing about Krishna, Lord Chaitanya just did that specifically with just a very few of his, but out there, Ek Bhar Bhavamana, you just consider this, that we're just a jiva, and wake up, he would say, wake up, Krishna Mata, Krishna Pita, Krishna Dana Pran, Krishna is our life, Krishna is everything. So the outward move, the outward of the Krishna conscious movement should be just able to take everyone in very readily. And then, as we purify through the processes, through our chanting, giving up offenses, through our sadhana, so through our different practices, our association, taking the right association for our particular time and place, then we can start maybe, fully relishing. But again, it's not that, Prabhupada was very open. He presented Krishna book to everyone, and he wanted this distributed widely. But his purports, again, were always helping us. He said once that even if a materialist goes to Vrindavan, they will experience separation from Krishna. So, how is that possible? Because hearing about Krishna, being in a place where Krishna's pastimes are glorified and chanted and performed, they're purifying. All these things are purifying. So we engage in things that purify us, and we're always looking for those things to purify us. And then, if we want to get lobha, we want to get greed to hear about Krishna. How is it achieved? Tatra loyam api ekalam. Not so easy. No. How can I get Krishna Rasa Bhavatamati? How can I get this absorption in Krishna? Oh, you just need lobha. You just need greed. Oh, that sounds very easy. No, you cannot get that even from thousands of births. It has to be you have to get that very carefully. And so Srila Prabhupada has created that very careful means by which we can come to that point, come to that stage. So I've also gone over time. So Shrutri's not here though, so I'm not in big trouble. Is breakfast ready? Well, thank you very much. Have fun. Tomorrow will be an exciting, very exciting, mysterious revelation of Krishna. So, Hare Krishna.
Yajna Sishra Sinasanto Vikshante Sarvagya Vishay